Hey there, this is Sam Smith, realtor with JP and Associates. I'm coming to you on Wednesday, the 24th of May, and I've got my guest, Dr. Seema. Seema Desai is a life coach with the mission to help outwardly successful, overachieving women and feel successful from the inside out. So, Dr. Seema, thank you so much for joining me today.
Sam, thank you so much. I just love how the universe works in terms of, for those of you who don't know, Sam and I recently met at a community event, and it was just such a joy to be able to connect with you, Sam, in person.
Thank
And
you.
so I'm glad we get to do this here.
Yeah, I was very excited to meet you. I think you and I were kind of like drawn straight to each other.
Yeah.
I think probably because we both, have that real interest in helping people
Yeah.
and doing things. And it's one of those things that you can kind of read in a room. People who are really genuine and wanting to help people out. Now, you started your career as a dentist.
Mhm.
You are a doctor,
Yeah.
and not just the academic doctor. You're actually a physical doctor.
Yeah.
So,
Like a real one.
yeah. And I'm guessing you did that for a few years, right?
I did it on and off for about 11 or 12 years.
Okay.
Um, full time, of course, when I got out. And then I was young in my marriage, and we didn't have any children at that time. And then, I worked full time for a while, and then, shifted as my other responsibilities in life shifted and other
Sure.
roles were added.
Yeah. And then, from my understanding, you found yourself in a situation where, you were working, you were living life, building your family, your home, and you just weren't feeling it. Would you
Oh my
say that you
gosh.
weren't feeling it?
Yes. Yeah. And, it's such an insidious sort of, sneaky feeling, because it shows up in ways your brain only sees what it's looking for, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, like,
Mhm.
when you're thinking about buying, say, a new car that's a Toyota Camry, all of a
Right.
sudden you're going to start seeing more Toyota Camrys. And it's not that
Yeah.
there's more Camrys on the road, it's that your reticular activating system in your brain is primed to see that.
Yeah.
um and so, because I wasn't looking, I wasn't really aware of how heavy that started to feel. The analogy I use is like when you're driving down the road and your GPS says exit here, but
Yeah.
you are going too fast, or maybe there's a car in the lane to where you can't exit. And so you keep going, and the GPS says, okay, exit here. And you keep going, and you're going too fast. And one day you crash into the wall
Yeah.
that the GPS was trying to direct you away from.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, so that's what that felt like.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
Yeah, yeah.
I think a lot of us in the world have felt that way. Like we're just going, start going through the motions, and all we know is we're going forward. And, there may be a different way to do things. And sometimes we don't even know or realize or even think to step out and try to find out what that is. So you
Yeah.
ended up hitting a proverbial wall, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I did. It's interesting, Sam, that you said we're going forward. And what came to mind for me was that, yeah, forward on someone else's GPS route,
Got it. Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
I one of the many pivotal moments that I had, was when my older child was about 5 months old, and he was just crying and crying and crying. And I went to a really dark place really fast.
Mhm.
And, I remember in that moment digging in and saying, I can't call it quits. Like, I've got to keep going. And I just didn't know how. I couldn't put words to it.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what was happening. People
Yeah.
just kept telling me, like, you're just tired. You're just, you know, um,
Yeah.
you're doing everything you're supposed to do, right? Like, you went to school and you got married, and now you have this child, and you're going to have another one, right? And um, you're going to go back to work, right? Why aren't you going back to work? When are you going back to work?
Oh
all these
gosh.
questions that people are not necessarily asking, but are kind of floating in the background.
Yeah.
Um, and then if you overlay that cultural reconciliation that had to happen for me, as there's these Western ideals and values that were important to me. I grew up with them. And then there's the good Indian girl that is supposed to, blindly listen to her husband's whims and wishes and,
Yeah.
obey her in-laws. And it was a very weird place. And my in-laws, by the way, are fantastic. Like,
I don't hear you complaining. I think you're just
no.
saying like,
Yeah.
the expectations. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
we all have a culture that we, even if we grow up in the United States, there are always microcultures within that.
Yeah.
And then of course this overarching expectation and the modern idea of, I think, of most women or families that are getting started is, one person always wants to stay home with the child, but most of the time both parents have to work, and so yeah, I can totally get that, whether it's spoken or unspoken.
Yeah.
It's still lingering somewhere
Yes.
on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of many moments that, but probably one of the clearest moments that I remember thinking, there's more,
Yeah.
and this isn't cutting it. And I didn't have, again, any clue as to why or what was causing that, but I'm glad I found out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So how old did you go back to dentistry after your first child was born?
I did. I practiced. I actually had a really amazing gift of an experience in terms of, I practiced mobile dentistry
Oh,
in
cool.
nursing homes, right? So I would
Oh,
physically
neat.
carry this big
Yeah.
dental chair, and my assistant would carry all of the like anesthesia and all the tools and things like that. And we would meet at various nursing homes around the community, and we'd go as far as like Kingsland or Waco,
Mhm.
into New Braunfels. And so all around, all over. And I got to really help, the most amazing elder esteemed members of our community. And it
Sure.
was such a cool experience. But I did that part-time, and then when it was time for me to, I was expecting our second daughter, uh, I stayed home with her for as long as I could, and then I went back and
Yeah.
did it some more, and then finally was like, I'm gonna hit this wall again. I'm not
Yeah.
exiting. I need to exit before I hit
Yeah.
another wall. And so thankfully this time I heard the message, and I slowed down enough to
Yeah.
stop and figure out what I wanted to do next.
Yeah. So then what inspired you to start your business? Because you are a success coach
Yeah.
and life coach, mainly focused on women. Um, you obviously had something that, a moment of enlightenment that told you that this is what you need to do.
Yeah. Well, I think we all, regardless of our cultural backgrounds, are told that if you have the job and the car and the spouse and the kids, um, that's what's considered success.
Right.
And that if the unspoken aspect of that message was that if you are successful by these terms, you will be happy.
Yeah.
And I had it all, and I had a real moment of like, well, why am I not happy?
Yeah.
And then I thought I did something wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's me. And then there was guilt, because I was like,
Sure. Mhm.
uh, I've been given all of this that,
Yeah.
yes, I worked for, but not everyone gets that. And I have
Right.
it. And why is it still not enough?
Yeah.
And when I realized what was getting in my way, I thought, oh my gosh, how many other women, how many other people
Mhm.
they're following the same path, whether it's
Yeah.
everybody in our family is a physician, or everybody in our families in tech, or
Right.
whatever, right? Like,
Mhm.
you do the thing, and we continuously are trying to be happy, but we don't know what that means, or why it's not sustainable, why we're always feeling stressed.
Yeah.
And there was a real lack of fulfillment and a real lack of feeling stuck. And so
Mm.
once I figured that out for myself, I got coaching myself.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I wasn't actually intending on becoming a coach. I wanted to be a yoga
Yeah.
instructor.
Oh, nice.
And the universe just sort of kept shutting me down. And
Yeah.
I wound up going to coaching school because I've seen it for myself. I've seen it from my clients. I've seen how we can fundamentally rewire our brains
Hmm.
so that we're no longer seeking things in places that are not controlled by us, right?
Yeah.
When we change our perspectives, we change the opportunities that are in front of us. And then by changing those opportunities, we get to actually align with our values and release the baggage that's holding us back. And
Yeah.
importantly, I think with coaching, and Sam, I know you can speak to this as well because you're in a different area of coaching,
Right. Mhm.
is really helping to create that actionable change
Yeah.
and have that accountability and safe space. It
Yeah.
means the world to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is a bigger picture of there's a lot of needless suffering that we inflict on ourselves, not willfully, not knowingly.
Yeah.
Um, and we all deserve the tools to be able to break free of that.
Yeah. That's very true. There is a lot of unnecessary suffering. But, we all know, or like it's always been, or it has been recently talked about so much more, that mental health needs to be a focal point, right? But coaching is something different than mental health, like therapy or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah.
And I think one of the words that you used was actionable. That I feel like that's a big, probably one of the more clearer definitions between therapy and coaching. Um, would you agree with that, or do you have a different perspective?
No, that is actually the fundamental. And I think even with sports coaching, that's the idea is action, right? I tell you, but with sports coaching, first of all, it's somebody wins and there's a loser and a winner, right? But as the
Right.
coach, I tell you what to do, you do it.
Yeah.
And if you follow my prescribed method, I will
Yeah.
guide you to a win, right? Now,
Mhm.
that's not to say that players don't have their own volition and things like that. But
Mhm.
with coaching, true coaching, it's not me that is creating the action. It's not my agenda. It's not me telling you what to do.
Yeah.
It's you as the expert in your own life,
Mhm.
who has the absolute agency and potential and capability to decide what it is that you want. It's my job is to show you your existing way of thinking so that you can see the thought errors that we all have, right? We all
Yeah.
have them. We have these limiting beliefs and
Mhm.
things that, so when you get to show your client their mind, they
Yeah.
get to really, the key is not even taking action, Sam, I would say, but we help people make decisions.
Yeah. Well, God, how many times in my life have I been, I wish someone would just tell me what to do. But, it is all on our shoulders, and having someone that is not like your mom or, your best friend, these people who are all going to kind of look out for your very best interest at heart, but, not in such a subjective way as a coach actually can. With your type of coaching, what you're saying is you're the one who's kind of digging it out. You're listening and giving a very objective and realistic perspective of what this person could be doing to
Right.
improve their situation.
Right. And I mean, it's my reflection back,
Mhm.
and your decision
Yeah.
as to what you choose to do with that is what I'm observing actually true for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not for me to decide.
Right.
And yes, for those of you who are kind of wondering what's the difference between therapy and coaching, therapy uh, is absolutely for if you have a diagnosis, right? Whether it's anxiety, like, or anything more chronic, a coach is not licensed, nor should they practice within that scope, right? We can't prescribe medications. We can't
Mhm.
prescribe uh, more medical interventions in that sense.
Mhm.
However, coaching and therapy is to help you be at peace with right now, with what's going
Yeah.
on in front of you. And
Mhm.
it's a critical part of mental health, but coaching mainly for those who are, maybe feeling just stuck, knowing that they're capable of more and not sure what that next step is, knowing, how do I feel more successful than I already am? How do I feel more at peace? How do I become a better mom or a better leader? What do I do after retirement? What does that look like? There's a whole section of coaches who coach just people who are about to retire or have freshly retired, because that's an interesting place to be without a plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So when you sought the help of a coach yourself, did you have any sort of game plan in mind, or was it through your coaching experience that you realized, was it with the help of your coach basically that you realized you should go into coaching yourself?
I like to say coaching is just yoga off the mat. It's everything else about yoga but the poses. Because, it is about,
that's a good one.
It really, non-judgment, curiosity, being open and willing to learn, putting yourselves in uncomfortable positions so that you can see what you're made of and tap into that potential that you otherwise would never know existed. I sought coaching myself because I was a really angry mom.
Yeah.
I didn't like how my relationship was with my kids. And, what I quickly realized was it's not about the situation or the other people. It's about me. Like, it's definitely it's not you, it's me situation here, where by shifting my own thought patterns and my own level of consciousness, if you will, the conflict only arises because external conflict, I always say, only arises because of internal conflict.
Yeah.
So get rid of the internal conflict and then life just becomes easier.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. It's very true. And I really like the yoga analogy. I myself am I don't do yoga a lot these days, but I've always loved it. And it's so true that it does challenge you to show the better part of yourself. So I think that analogy is very appropriate. I love it. Beyond appropriate. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So you kind of coached through becoming your parenthood, like kind of going out of your career of education, what you were educated for, and into your own new business. It's really difficult. We were talking about this before. It's really difficult to go from being, knowing where your next paycheck is coming from to being self-employed and really having to work to build your business. And, it's never an easy thing. So, what did you really kind of take that dive? You must have also had support from your family, I would guess, to make those steps. So, and is this something you do full time, or?
I do it. This is my full time. I get to say passion and job. It's my purpose. I care truly about helping people lean into their own potential. I just did a post on Instagram the other day, and I was talking about how had I only continued to listen to very specific voices that were happening, the conversations happening outside of me, and then my internal narrative, had I not taken that chance, I never would have authored a book. I never would have stopped practicing dentistry. I would have told myself that I needed to stay because insert reason. And that my reasons for not wanting to stay were not important. I would have constantly sacrificed and bartered my own well-being for the sake of others. Expecting that to be the recipe for happiness. And, it isn't. I get to host a podcast. And I mean, philanthropically, I spend a lot of time raising awareness and funds for creating equitable, quality access to education in under-resourced communities. I,
Yeah.
I never in my wildest dreams if you had taken me back 15 years and said, this is your life now, I would have never believed you. But we
Wow.
all have that. We all
Yeah.
have this magic inside us. I'm not special in that way. I'm not particularly privileged. And people can tell themselves, oh, well, yeah, but you had the support of your family. Well, yes, but there are plenty of people who have that financial support or that emotional support, and they are not yet ready on their spiritual journey to make that shift. That's
Yeah.
fine. We're all going to get to where we're meant to get to. But, had I not leaned into the uncertainty, none of the
Yeah.
magic would have happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very wise words, good advice for anyone who's watching, because that, taking a step of faith, and, exploring what's really could be out there can be more fulfilling than you'd ever imagined, in my opinion. Well, you touched on a couple of other things in that statement. And one is that you are a published author.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about your book at all?
Yeah, I wrote the book. It's called Connected: Discovering Your Inner Guides. And that is a whole story in and of itself, but I want to be mindful of everyone's time and just say, I wrote the book because, as I mentioned, I got coaching because I was an angry parent.
Mhm.
And when I found those principles to be impactful for myself, that was right when the start of the pandemic happened.
Okay.
And my idea was, if I can give the kids a common language,
Mhm.
then they can help me be a calm and connected mom.
Okay.
That was my initial thought. What ended up happening were these kids blossoming and saying the most insightful, beyond their age things and wisdom, that I would have ever expected.
Wow.
And when I started to see this magic, not overnight, but it was a dramatic change,
Mhm.
I thought every family deserves to have this.
Yeah.
As a mom, they tell you like, oh, well, you need to calm down. As a woman, they tell you you're too emotional, you
Yeah.
need to calm down.
Yeah. Mhm.
If I knew how to calm down, don't you think I would? I mean, do you really think I want to be all up in
Yeah.
arms all the time?
Yeah, but it's also not what we're taught when we're kids.
It's not. It's
Yeah.
not. And that's why I wrote the book, right? Is so that we
Mhm.
can start to have these conversations with our children. And it's really for kids ages 8 to 80. You do not have to have kids.
Okay.
You do not have to have kids that are young. I have had so many people from various walks of life, different spiritual backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, tell me, oh my gosh, this resonated with me,
Wow.
And so, the book is called Connected: Discovering Your Inner Guides. It's not a very long book, but it is one that's meant to be a resource. It's not a one and done, read it and put it back on the shelf. It's meant for you to start building your own framework for tapping into that potential that you have, that ability to be free and happy and at ease.
Yeah.
And that's, so there's that. It's available on Amazon.
Good.
And you can find it on my website too. But that's really the point of the podcast too, where I launched just back at the end of March with a co-host, my co-host, Dinesh Malwani. He's a successful patent attorney up in DC, and he's also a performance and success coach. And we just decided, you know what, let's come together and help people in this way to do more of the same, right? More of what the book is all about, more of what my coaching is all about. We want people to have a free, accessible, anytime way of reflecting and learning. Not all of us are readers, right? Some of us have problems reading. And so what better way than to offer them, an auditory method.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the title of it, Happy and Human. Sometimes this, in a lot of our minds, like you were talking about, those two don't kind of go together. But it's really, it is enlightening. And I love it that you have a male and a female perspective, that's hopefully very balanced. And, I hope a lot of people do get some guidance, insight from that. And with your book and with your podcast, I do plan to post those in the recap on YouTube, so that people are able to reach out not only to your website, but also in those other ways. I wanted to, in the interest of time, just kind of shift over to just talking about like what kind of services and programs do you offer? I think you have a workshop coming up.
I do.
pretty soon.
Yeah. My primary at this point service is private coaching.
Yeah. Okay.
So I am, taking private clients. I enjoy that. It's wonderful to sort of really help people focus on the particular issues that they have, and how it hinders their lives and how we can make that better. I'm just now starting to offer things like workshops. I'm looking at designing a course and things of that nature. But the workshop is going to be at Felicia Reed's photography studio in Round Rock.
Yeah.
I'm super excited about it. It's a gorgeous space, and it's all about, it is designed for moms that have, it's summertime. How do we have a summer that's happy, and you're not yelling at the kids, you're not overwhelmed. The pile of dishes and the laundry and the pool towels and the, what do I do with you while I'm trying to work? I mean, we only get 18 summers with our kids, and there's no reason that you can't start to learn to use those tools to create a meaningful summer. So I'm really excited to be able to offer that here in a few weeks.
Yeah, that's great. Like I was telling you before, man, I just thought summers were so hard. And so I think anything that helps in those type of, with those type of situations, especially to make it meaningful, because you don't want to be remembered as the mom who was stressed out, or, that's kind of the way my kids think of me, is like, Mom, you're always working. Can't we go to the pool or whatever? So I'm looking forward to, I won't be able to attend that one, but I think there are plenty of people out there, plenty of parents who need that guidance. And I think this is going to be a really valuable resource for a lot of people.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited that we got to connect here. I really admire you for making that big transition, but I understand, I've heard you say it wasn't easy, but it was well worth it. And I think that's just something really to admire. And I think there are a lot of people who aspire to doing that, to breaking out of what their path, their highway is taking them to, like, get into, a different lane and try something new. So I just found that really inspirational when I met you, and I'm thankful that you decided to share it with me, with both of our audiences out here on social media, on YouTube. And like I had mentioned, I will put contact information in the description below. I'll go back and add all that information so that people can reach out and also listen to your podcast.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Sam. I thank you for doing this for our community. For, I guess I realize you can be in Australia and still listen to this.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for making time intentionally to have this and to support other women, other businesses in this way. And I guess we're just, as you're seeing, even with the workshop, right, just finding those women and those business owners to collaborate with you so that you can help as many people as possible. It's what it's all about. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next week. I have someone who is not from the not from the Austin community. She's from San Antonio. She's an up and coming chef. She's a pretty remarkable person. I can't wait to have her on here as well. So definitely come back next week and check it out. All right. Bye-bye.
Stay well.